the British High Commissioner to Cameroon. Thank you very much indeed, and welcome to GlobeWatch.
Thank you very much.
Well, I know that it is basically an issue of internal politics and electoral matter in which somebody of your office may find it very difficult to answer. But I have to put the question to you. You have a new government. In simple British terms, it is simply continuity of service for somebody like you, right?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very good point, that we are politically neutral civil servants, serve the government of the day within the law, whatever that government is. And as you say, we've just gone through an exercise in democracy. As you say, the previous party had been in government for as long as 14 years, and the voters voted for change. And it's perhaps not that unusual in British politics. In my lifetime, I think I've gone through maybe 6 changes of party. And you've touched on a number of really important areas that I'm sure we'll explore. But let me celebrate, I think, 2 things. First, on a personal level, I have 3 sons, and they all voted. They're all in their 20s. I think they voted for 3 different parties, but I think the participation of young people in politics is so important, their inclusion in politics. And then secondly, may I celebrate the fact that as equal partners in the Commonwealth, the UK and Cameroon share commitment to values like democracy, human rights, individual liberty, good governance, and so on. So I think it's something that we share.
It's something that you possibly share, democracy. Elections will be here next year, presidential. Democracy is one of the key elements you indicated that binds Cameroon and the United Kingdom. What is your perception of the country's democratic credentials for the moment, especially when it comes to young people's participation in electoral matters, which you just indicated?
I think it's so important that young people, women and girls, are able to participate fully in the political and economic life of any country. It's the basic, we all do better if everyone is able to contribute. And so it's, as I say, it's great that we share a commitment to those sorts of values.
Well, related to democracy is human rights. Like any other government which is in office in the UK, I don't think that the current one will change its mappings on democracy and human rights. It's been a long time since we ever hear the UK producing a human rights report situation in Cameroon. Is that an abandoned project, or you're still very much committed in that area?
No, I think we have long and regularly produced reports on human rights across the world. They tend to be thematic, while highlighting particular concerns. So I encourage your viewers to go to our FCDO website, and you'll find our reports on human rights there.
What is the major high point of your latest Human Rights Global Report, which is the most abused human rights situation in the world today as a British government representative?
Well, let me highlight, at this time when we're all enjoying the Olympics, yeah, and I wish British and Cameroonian athletes all the best in the Olympic Games, we remember that 487 Ukrainian athletes will not be competing in the Games because they lost their lives standing up to Russia's illegal invasion of their country. And it's important for all of us that we stand up against Vladimir Putin's new imperialism, because if large countries are able to take over, to invade small countries, it won't end with Ukraine.
You mean to say that the greatest element of threat to human rights and democracy in the world today is the attack on sovereign states, right?
That
On their territorial integrity.
Vladimir Putin's,
Wherever it may happen, not only
Vladimir
Ukraine.
Putin's invasion of an independent sovereign country, Ukraine, is a threat to us all. And let me highlight.
The same can go back to American-led and British sustained invasion of Iraq in 2003, Afghanistan. The same argument can go on.
The situations are just completely different.
Christopher John Lamora. Excellence, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, bonjour et merci d'avoir accepté l'invitation de la Cameroun Radio Television et surtout d'accorder une interview en français.
Merci, Charles. C'est toujours un plaisir d'échanger avec les journalistes camerounais.
Vous avez déjà célébré 3 fêtes nationales américaines au Cameroun, mais ta première audience publique au Cameroun après les lettres au ministère des Relations extérieures, c'était avec le président du Conseil constitutionnel. Pourquoi avez-vous choisi d'aller là-bas, pas avec le Premier ministre?
C'est vraiment intéressant parce que lorsqu'on arrive dans un pays en tant qu'ambassadeur, dans mon cas, l'ambassadeur des États-Unis d'Amérique, vraiment, ce n'est pas complètement le choix de l'ambassadeur qui vient d'arriver avec qui on va se réunir d'abord. Ça dépend aussi des programmes tellement chargés des interlocuteurs, des personnes avec lesquelles nous voulons échanger. Donc, nous avons demandé des audiences avec beaucoup de monde et c'était le président du Conseil constitutionnel qui m'a offert la première réunion.
Dans l'opinion publique camerounaise, cela indiquait du fait que peut-être que les questions liées à la démocratie, au respect du calendrier électoral, à la constitutionnalité des droits au Cameroun pourraient être les priorités parmi les missions que Washington vous a assignées au Cameroun. C'était le cas?
Bon, la démocratie, la bonne gouvernance, les droits humains, tout ça sont toujours des priorités du gouvernement des États-Unis. Et votre audience, vos spectateurs ont vu depuis les 2 dernières années et demie que je suis ici que nous avons mis beaucoup d'accent sur ces thématiques-là. J'ai parlé de ces choses avec beaucoup de ministres, avec le Premier ministre et, comme vous l'avez très bien dit, avec le président du Conseil constitutionnel.
Donc, si on se comprend bien, les enjeux électoraux très bientôt au Cameroun figurent parmi tes priorités au Cameroun. Je parle naturellement de l'élection présidentielle de 2025 et les autres, sachant très bien que les élections parlementaires n'auront plus lieu l'année prochaine.
Bon, il faut dire que les élections sont seulement une partie de la vie démocratique d'un pays.
Okay.
Évidemment, on met beaucoup d'accent sur ça. Ce sont les citoyens, c'est le gouvernement, c'est les partis politiques qui voient, qui regardent vers l'avenir, qui regardent 2025 et qui se posent des questions sur ce qui va se passer. On a vu évidemment récemment la décision du gouvernement de prolonger les élections prévues d'abord pour 2025, probablement en 2026, à cause d'élargir, disons, le terme, le mandat des membres de l'Assemblée nationale par un an. Mais ça fait seulement une partie de ce que c'est la démocratie. La démocratie, c'est aussi la bonne gouvernance. C'est rendre les services sociaux au peuple dont ils ont besoin, etc. Donc, c'est un tout petit pas.
Et parlons d'autres éléments de la démocratie figurent très bien, les droits de l'homme. Souvent, l'ambassade des États-Unis sortait les communiqués tout le temps pour parler des questions liées aux droits de l'homme au Cameroun. Ça fait longtemps que je n'ai pas vu ces rapports-là. Ça existe toujours?
Bon, il y a 2-3 manières de répondre à cette question-là. Je dirais d'abord, chaque année, le département d'État, c'est-à-dire notre ministère des Relations extérieures, délivre, publie un rapport sur la grande plupart des pays partout dans le monde, y compris le Cameroun, et la situation et nos préoccupations, nos inquiétudes sur les droits humains. Et donc, ça continue. Nous avons publié en, je crois, avril de cette année pour l'année passée. Donc, ça continue, basé à Washington. Deuxièmement, vous avez parlé des communiqués de presse, ce n'est pas le terme que tu as utilisé, mais communiqué de presse de l'ambassade. Nous en avons fait, par exemple, par rapport à la liberté de la presse et le journalisme. Nous avons été et nous continuons à être très très clairs sur le cas, par exemple, de Martinez Zogo et ce que nous attendons en tant que la recherche pour la justice et que le procès qui a lieu actuellement soit ouvert et transparent. Donc, nous faisons de tels constats.
Autre élément concernant les droits de l'homme au Cameroun, c'est les droits des enfants, des femmes. Depuis votre arrivée ici, quel est le regard que vous portez à ce sujet?
D'abord, il faut dire que nous ne disons pas maintenant en anglais ou bien en français les droits de l'homme. Ce sont des droits humains, parce que c'est les hommes ainsi que les femmes qui ont et qui devraient avoir
un langage égalitaire.
Les mêmes droits.
OK.
Bon, par rapport spécifiquement quant aux femmes, je peux dire que, par exemple, dans la lutte contre la traite de personnes, nous avons travaillé de tout près avec le gouvernement camerounais, avec les organisations de la société civile, pour améliorer, pour protéger les femmes en particulier contre la traite. Et je dois souligner aussi que le gouvernement camerounais, le ministère des Transports, le ministère des Affaires sociales ont très bien fait récemment avec la campagne de publicité contre la traite des êtres humains à l'aéroport de Douala et aussi à l'aéroport ici à Yaoundé. Merci Marlène.
Parlons maintenant de l'assistance humanitaire au Cameroun. Depuis votre arrivée, vous avez trouvé les crises sociales au Cameroun. Par exemple, la crise des réfugiés venant de la Centrafrique, du Nigeria. Quel est l'apport des États-Unis dans ce sujet actuellement au Cameroun?
Bon, j'ai eu l'occasion de rendre visite au centre de réfugiés à Minawao, dans l'extrême nord, il y a 1 an et demi environ. Et j'ai vu là-bas la situation des réfugiés du Nigeria. Et bien que je n'ai pas encore eu l'occasion de voyager et voir les réfugiés centrafricains, je suis bien informé sur ça. Nous avons travaillé avec le gouvernement camerounais, avec le système des Nations Unies, avec l'autre commissariat des Nations Unies pour les réfugiés et autres, pour rendre de l'aide à ces personnes dans les deux endroits, c'est-à-dire les Nigérians et aussi les Centrafricains. Le gouvernement des États-Unis est le plus grand donateur, le plus grand bailleur de fonds à ces agences de l'ONU pour rendre l'assistance à ces communautés.
Vous avez envoyé l'assistance en termes de fourniture de nourriture il y a quelques mois. La semaine passée, j'ai discuté avec la directrice sortante du programme alimentaire mondial au Cameroun et elle appréciait l'apport des États-Unis au Cameroun. Lorsque vous regardez le déficit à combler, c'est énorme. Et ce que vous donnez?
Je veux dire, parce que vous avez mentionné la directrice sortante de Haut Commissariat des réfugiés, du PAM, du Programme alimentaire mondial, oui. Que nous avons travaillé très très bien avec elle et son équipe et nous allons continuer à le faire.
Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, welcome to Globe Watch and thank you very much indeed for talking to us exclusively.
Well, thank you for the invitation to appear on your program. I'm very happy to speak to you.
Officially, you are in Cameroon for the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the framework agreement between Cameroon and the Holy See. Apart from that official reason, is there any other motive which justifies your presence in Cameroon at this time of the year?
Well, I've wanted to come to Cameroon for a long time. I count amongst my friends several of the apostolic nuncios who served in Cameroon, and they have invited me in the past, but this seemed to be the ideal moment to come. Also, we believe that we need to give more and more attention to Africa, and I don't pretend to know this part of Africa very well. I've served in the East, and I've served in part of Central Africa, so it's a great opportunity to get to a little bit more about your continent.
You arrived in Cameroon last Thursday, November 16th or 14th, at the Yaoundé Simalène International Airport, welcomed by the Cameroonian diplomatic establishment. You had audiences with the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Joseph Dion Ngute, as well as the Minister of External Relations, Lujen Belambela. You were equally at the Minor Basilica for a pontifical mass, and you were at the headquarters of the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon for a conversation with the Cameroonian Episcopate. How have you seen the nature of what some qualify as a vibrant church in Cameroon?
Well, it's quite clear that the church here in Cameroon has a well-established structure. It is functioning very well. It has a positive prospects for vocations, for members, people joining the clergy and the religious orders. And I can see that the lay people who are attending our churches are very committed and very full of good intentions with regard to spreading of the faith, strengthening the faith. So it's been for me a most encouraging experience so far.
Well, the 10th anniversary of the signing of the framework agreement between Cameroon and the Holy See is just one of the hallmarks of the long-standing relationship between Cameroon and the Roman Catholic establishment in general. It's roughly 134 years ever since the first Catholics stepped their legs in what is today Cameroon. That should be in 1890 in a locality called Marienberg in the current littoral region of Cameroon. Cameroon and the Vatican established formal diplomatic relations in 1966 following the establishment of the Vatican as a state in the 1929 Lateran treaties. And we have had 3 papal visits in Cameroon, and both of Cameroon's presidents since independence and reunification have been at the Vatican. How do you qualify the nature of relations between Cameroon and the Holy See today?
Well, we have very healthy relations, I think. There is a flow of exchanges, as you've just mentioned, between the Vatican and Yaoundé, and we are pretty well in constant contact through the Apostolic Nuncio here, through the ambassador to the Holy See, and also the visits of bishops and other church leaders in these years. A few, not so long ago, the bishops all came to Rome for their ad limina visit, and it was a very good opportunity to meet and exchange not only with the Holy Father, Pope Francis, but also other heads of departments in the Vatican.
The framework agreement, this is not the only country in Africa. You have signed it, by my understanding and research, you have signed with roughly 14 other African countries, including Muslim-dominant countries like Burkina Faso. How unique is the nature or the character of the framework agreement between Cameroon and the Holy See, which defines the legal framework of the Catholic Church in Cameroon? I know that Ecclesia in Africa was, of course, signed here in the same building that you and I are meeting today.
Well, we cannot say that the framework agreement is unique, because it's similar to other such agreements between the Holy See and various countries in Africa. Generally speaking, Africa is the part of the world which is most interested these days in negotiating such agreements. This one, I think, is good, but agreements are only as good as their application. And that is an ongoing work in process. And I think the bishops are very keen that should be the case. And we too are going to try and to continue to work with government here through the Apostolic Nunciature to make sure that the agreement is fully applied to the benefit both of the Church and the state, but above all of the common good of the Cameroonian people.
You are just talking about the Cameroonian people. Around the world today, the Roman Catholic establishment runs roughly plus 200,000 schools. Nearly 62 million pupils attend nursery and primary schools in Roman Catholic institutions worldwide, which simply means that education is very prominent in the work which you do, sometimes as a charity organization. Why is the Church so much investing in education as the pathway for human emancipation?
Well, I think education is fundamental to human existence and human thing. It is a right of people. Everybody, whether you're a small child or whether you're a young adult, everybody aspires to greater knowledge and understanding. And the church has for centuries appreciated that and therefore committed itself to running education institutions at all levels. And very often in establishing new missions, building of a school has been judged to be more important than building of a church.
The co-chair of the Green Climate Fund, Seni Nafo of Malian nationality, welcome to Globewatch.
Welcome, thank you. Thank you.
You have just been elected in South Korea, where the headquarters of the Green Climate Fund is found. How was your election?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm here to attend the largest young forum on climate finance, on adaptation on the continent. So happy to be here to do that. So the Green Climate Fund elects co-chairs once a year, 2 co-chairs, one representing all developed countries and one representing all developing countries, meaning more than 146 countries. And I've had the good fortune of being elected for a number of reasons. I've been an advisor to board members for the last 12 years or so. And there's a new cycle starting January 1st. And my colleagues have deemed me fit to serve the board, and at the same time, this is happening in a moment where the Green Climate Fund is going through a restructuring. We've had a new executive director just a year and a half ago, was coming with renewed energy to address a number of challenges, one of which is access, meaning accelerating the access to the Green Climate Fund's resources.
Which means that of the 14 years of existence of the Green Climate Fund, you have spent within that ecosystem roughly 12 years, which means that you know the nitty-gritties of how the structure functions. How critical is the Green Climate Fund in helping the whole global discourse of fighting climate change and global warming?
Well, it is today the largest multilateral climate fund. The fund was capitalized in 2015, just going to Paris, an initial capitalization of $10 billion, and it has been replenished in 2018, and it was further replenished last year. So that's about 30+ billion in 10 years. We have approved about $15 billion, and what we also do is that most of our project we co-fund, meaning usually when we fund a project with let's say $1 from the Green Climate Fund, we're also able to attract another $1 from another institution. So far we've pretty much in our portfolio reached about total mobilization target is 30 billion, and we're looking for a $50 billion mark by 2030. So that's significant, but still, unfortunately, the needs, just on this continent, the needs are so much that the GCF needs to really overhaul its strategy. Out of that 15 billion or so which was approved, the continent received 1/3 of that. So 1/3, so this is about $3 billion every year. I mean, $3 billion roughly every 3 years, 1 billion per year. Africa needs about 20 times that much. 20 times that much. So what we're working on in the Green Climate Fund right now is a strategy where we work with countries in establishing a comprehensive resource mobilization strategy, which has the GCF in the center, but which allows really countries to mobilize all kinds of finance, all kinds of public and private, domestic and international. So this is what role we want to play. We want to have a GCF advising countries.
Resource mobilization is a key element of that fund, and like you said, you have disbursed already roughly $16.1 billion, sponsoring roughly 286 projects across some 160 countries, roughly, something of that nature. The projects you sponsor to roll back climate change, what is their nature?
So there's fundamentally two
Green agriculture, forest restoration, land restoration, or what?
all of that. So there's two fundamental types of climate projects. You have those projects which deals with the impact, so they're called adaptation, meaning adaptation to climate change, and there's those who are trying really to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They're called mitigation projects. So out of that you have broad, so those are the two types, and then you have really broad categories. Whether, so if you were to assess African countries' climate strategies, you would see that agriculture and water are the two most important sectors, or the priority sectors.